Hello, everybody. This is Beaulieu, writer of The River. This snippet is going to be the Moxy of Ms Edmonds. I wanted to start doing these little audio snippets. About a month ago, I actually started to send out or tweet out previews concerning The River, Book 2, The Blood Brothers Chronicles Volume 2, Blood and Water, and I've been getting a lot of really wonderful feedback, and thank you everybody for that. I really do appreciate that. But I also thought it'd be really fun because I'm actually enjoying 2 audiobooks, and while I'm working, because television just doesn't seem to really interest me anymore, so while I'm either just tending to other projects or drawing or doing graphics for The River, I'm listening to audiobooks from other authors, and I find them deeply intriguing. So I wanted to kind of do something like that, like an audio book of my own, but basically just do audio versions of the previews that I send out and that I'm retweeting from Dreamweaver Publications on Twitter. Again, everybody, thank you very, very much for the feedback and for the support. I really do appreciate it. To give a little background about the snippet, about the preview that I'm about to read, the boys they're hungry. It's morning time, and they're about to walk into Ms Edmonds' restaurant. Now, I give a lot of back history about Ms Edmonds concerning her, whom she is, what she suffered through. Everyone, please keep in mind this is the early 1920s. Around about this time, Benjamin and Slick, they're probably around about 25. Slick is 25. Benjamin is probably 27. And these are young guys, and they're about to have breakfast. They are traveling all across the Deep South, investigating land grabbing that's happening all over the Deep South. The boys will actually make known of this through a lot of intrigue, and they take it upon themselves to say, hey, you know what? We really want to understand what the hell is going on. These are 2 guys that are vigilante killers. They're hired by black people, white people, anybody who has a lot of money. Say, you know what? This guy did me wrong. I want you to take care of him. And if you got the whole cold hard cash, you can afford them. Benjamin and Slick will probably be at your door saying, all right, let's do it. So that's my boys. But about Ms Edmonds, she has a really painful history, and I don't mince words about it. Slavery and all the brutality in the Deep South in the 1800s, early 1900s, going on into the 1960s. This wasn't a fun thing. This was real. This really happened, and a lot of us really, and the PC driven society that we live in, it's almost as if we want to sweep this under the rug. And me writing The River it doesn't revolve around politics, excuse me, but politics is there. It is Southern folklore from my family. Skeeter and Slick were Skeeter's actually Benjamin, thank you very much. But Skeeter and Slick were actually very, very distant relatives of mine that disappeared around about 1934. This is part of my bloodline. This is part of my family. So The River, in a sense, it's very dramatized. It's very dramatized. It's very elaborate folklore, but it is based on some truth. On Twitter, I tweeted a few different sayings and memories from my great aunt Jet, and she was the one who basically got this book started. Every time I would go there, every summer, I would go and visit her. Every time in the summer, I would go and visit her. And Aunt Jet, she started telling me about the boys when I was around about 9 or 10, but she really wouldn't tell me too much until I turned 13. And I kept pestering. I'm like, hey, Jet, you gotta tell me about these men. You have to tell me about them. I know they exist. Nobody wants to talk to me about them, and you're the only one. And mind you, she was my oldest aunt on my mother's side, the oldest. She was the last of the Mohicans. And when Skeeter and Slick were living, she was around about 5, 6, 7. I think the last time she saw the boys, she was 12. So she was a young girl. So she had a lot of recollections of the boys. So on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, look out for Aunt Jet and just recollections of, oh yes, the woman behind the river, Aunt Jet. Look out for that. Go to the site. I'm actually going to put a link at the very bottom of this video so that you guys can go and check that out. It's so incredibly interesting when you can connect with your grandparents or older people in your family, and the history is incredible. So shout out to Aunt Jet. I love you dearly. Thank you so much for believing in me, for supporting me when you were on this earth, and thank you so much for sharing these wonderful stories about the boys. Oh man, I would often spend, my goodness, I would spend all summer with her, summer holiday from school. So that's probably around about 2 or 3 months. So as soon as school got out, because my family, we didn't really, when I was young, it was a whole really rough situation. So going to the country was a treat. And so as soon as I got out of school, I begged my Uncle Garland, take me to the country. And Mommy, she wanted to get rid of me anyway. The woman I was staying with that I called my surrogate mother, she was like, oh, take him. And they would take me to Aunt Jet in the country. And I would be with her on months on end, for months. And, oh my goodness, we would be on her porch. Her porch was by the Colorado River. And the same home that her mother and her mother's mother lived in, that home they had never moved from. It was so beautiful. And we were overlooking the river. It was a steep cliff going down to the Colorado River. And she would tell me the most colorful stories about the boys, about things that they liked. And it's so funny because a lot of what she would tell me as I got older, she would start to really, really get into the tales and really start to kind of give me some really juicy tidbits like, wow. She would tell me everything. I was like, okay, thank you so much. I just love it. So when it was nearing time for her to transition, she was getting a lot older, and I started to take notes. And I still have those notes. As of 2 years ago, I had those notes in a safety deposit box in my bank. They were so dear to me, I actually locked them up. And something just came over me after writing Evolve 3014, and I was really honing in on my craft, and I really felt comfortable with my new craft, which is writing. Really incredibly happy with it, and I just became very motivated. And I said, you know what? I really got to get this done. Skeeter was in my spirit. He's always been with me. He's always wanted me to do this book. And I had to do this book for him. I had no idea how how crazy and how wonderful and how just awesome this whole adventure would be, and how just I am so driven by this whole literary journey, but I'm so incredibly happy about it. So I say all that to say, from now on, a lot of the previews that I'm going to share, they're going to have audio versions to go along with them, so that you can listen to this on YouTube while you have your wine or your beer, while you relax I would say family, but this is a young adult book or a new adult book, so I don't recommend anyone under the age of 16. Actually under the age of well, in my family, under the age of 18, because I'm kind of old-fashioned, so nobody under the 18, please do not listen to this, because the river is just honest. The river is just honest. It's brutally honest. And it's honest about everything. It's honest about sex. It's honest about classism. It's honest about colloquialisms. How it's country people, or how the boys communicated with each other. I received a lot of, not a lot, but I received some feedback based on how they would say the word nigger. And mind you, I mentioned that before in another video. And each reader that came back, I graciously told them, I said, you know what? These guys were thugs. This is how they talk to each other. And mind you, sidebar, this is how Aunt Jet would verbalize their dialogue to me. I'm like, Aunt Jet, that word. Baby, that's just how they talk. I'm like, okay. She would tell me, she's like, that's how they talk to each other. I'm like, nigga, for real? She said, yeah, that's how they talk to each other. I'm like, Skeeter, they get mad at Slick because, he's a white Cajun. And I did say that. And Jet, I'll never forget it. She got about ticklish pink. She was tickle pink. She said, boy, they're brothers. What they gonna do? Fight it? They got, listen, she said they got better things to fight about, like women folk. I'm like, she's like, they're not gonna fight about that. That's petty. I'm like, you know what? You're right. You are exactly right. So I'm brutally honest, and a lot of people can really, really appreciate it. They understand the time. They understand the context. They understand the context of the subject matter, the time period, and how that is appropriate pertaining to the men. But most of all, I want to share a literary journey with my readers that is full of adventure and of brotherhood, of love. I want people not just to be inspired concerning brotherhood, but I want people to be inspired with food and drink. Listen, in the river, I'm going to start introducing recipes and zydeco music and Creole music and African American and Negro spirituals. Just all things that revolve around Deep South concerning black folks and white folks and Creoles. I want people to really start to understand how rich the Deep South is. Yes, we have had a very rough history in the Deep South. We still have very far to go, but it's rich in history. It's rich in legacy, and there are hundreds and millions of stories that have yet to be untold about people fighting against the odds and still loving each other in spite of Jim Crow. I mean, and that love crossing racial barriers. My family, I tell everyone, I'm like, look, if you need to see and understand how most people, when the law wasn't looking, they told Jim Crow to go straight to hell. Check out my family. I tell everyone, my family, the black folks, was messing around with the white folks and doing this, and then the white folks would mess around with the black folks, and then they just created Cajuns and Creoles, and we just got together. Slaves were messing around with other poor folks, and then poor black sharecroppers were messing around with other poor white sharecroppers. There was no limit to our fever, honey. I like to say I come from a huge family tree of up to 17 different lines. And I like to tell people I come from a long line of very horny people. And we don't care what skin color you is, there's two prerequisites. You have to cook and you have to have a good personality. And you gotta look good. If you look good, you can cook and you got a good personality, you probably got you a husband if you're a woman, and if you're a man, you probably gonna get a good wife too, or a good lady friend to really appreciate you. But I just come from a long line of people that the whole Jim Crow thing didn't really. One, it's Louisiana, and two, the whole Jim Crow thing, we almost ignored it because we knew it was bullshit, and we knew that. Being in the Deep South, that most of all we were human beings beyond skin color. This is who we are, human beings. And then also to keep in mind, the white folks and the Native Americans and the black folks, all of us that pitted our families together, that became family within families, we're all poor folks. So, there was no classism. We were poor people. We had to depend on each other. And you know how with human beings, when they start to, sniffing around and start, Jimmy looking at Sally Mae over there with her sexy little chocolate self, and she's feeling some kind of way after a while, and he want to take her down to the bayou, and they go fishing, they spend a little quiet time together. Pretty soon, like human beings, they're going to fall in love. That's just what humans do. That's the reason why we are created. We're created to love each other and to understand each other. So, you can look at my family. I'm just a cornucopia of just every hue you could ever think of is in my family tree. But the Moxy of Ms Edmonds, the boys are walking in. They're about to get a good old southern breakfast. And but Ms Edmonds, she has something to tell them. So here we go. Midday on Bourbon Street is busy, cluttered with people going about their lives, strutting with pride or hunched over with burdens untold. The world revolves as always. Walking along, both silent except for their rumbling stomachs and minds, Benjamin and Slick make their way to their favorite restaurant, a hole in the wall called Mama's Kitchen and Restaurant. Walking past a big brute of a black man that looks as if he's had a chip on his shoulder since being pushed out in the world, both men sit down on one of the rundown tables, ready to take in the best southern breakfast the Deep South has to offer. Looking around, Slick takes in the simple decor of the eatery, the first to be owned by a black woman and an ex-slave by the name of Rachel Edmonds. On the soot-covered walls seems to be a wallpaper that looks more like newsprint, probably to cover up holes and badly needed repairs. On a wooden table that has seen better days, a clean checkered tablecloth covers wood that is old and worn with love. Slick smiling as his fingers gently grace several carved initials, two names in a heart, probably lovers whom ate at the eatery a long time ago. Looking to his napkin-wrapped forks and knives, the blue-eyed thug has so many questions for his brother, especially what happened last night. But that will have to wait. Business must be attended to. Ms. Edmonds has information about the land deeds mystery, probably more rumors, maybe a new direction for the quickly cooling case. As the men look up from their morning silence, both slightly hung over, a pleasant-looking, full-figured black woman walks up to their table, wearing a white apron that tells the tales of good cooking, smeared with sauces, grease and care. Miss Edmond eyes the men suspiciously, as she does with everyone that walks in, by the way. With a smile as bright as a Sunday sunny morning, the business owner recognizes two faces that once saved her son's life a few years back. Well, look what the damn cat drug in, the hefty woman laughs. Reaching over before he could even get up, Benjamin is hugged tight. Slick grabbed next, almost right out his seat. Maddie, pit on the damn works, gal. Get a big breakfast for these men folk here, gal, Miss Edmond calls to her kitchen. Adjusting in their fine threads, Slick and Benjamin laugh at the greeting as they look to the wise cook, a woman who knows all that happens in the streets of Nola, from the down and out to the rich Creole bourgeoisie and their hearty attitudes. Everybody whom is anybody eats at Mama's Kitchen, and if they're too snobby to come in for a seat, Miss Edmond also delivers, the first restaurant to do so in the square. Slick and Benjamin know the woman's history very well, both looking at the cook spill small tidbits of gossip. One would never know through her jolly laugh that Miss Edmonds has had a hard life, a story surrounded with infamy and intrigue. Brought up on the Wise Plantation in southern Louisiana, Edmonds has always been a formidable power to be dealt with, even as a young girl. It was 1845. The business of picking cotton and sugarcane was a way of life for the wretched souls trapped in servitude, while their white slave masters looked on from high-up verandas, surrounded by finery that might as well have been dipped in blood, sweat, and shit. On a day that was particularly hot, particularly cruel, the sun was blazing upon the earth, making the field work for Rachel Edmonds' family, well past unbearable. A little girl back then, picking as fast as she could, as her burlap sack filled with day's work lagging behind, Edmund toiled under what must have been at least 50 pounds tied to her tender, frail shoulders. Suddenly, without a warning, Rachel's mother fainted dead. The young girl was officially alone in the world. Even as she cried at her mother's dead body, other slaves gathering around, young Edmonds knew this unfortunate circumstance was just the beginning of her plight. More trouble was surely on the way, and that trouble had a face. Looking down from his fine steed, as if some furry demon sent from the bottomless pits of hell, Mr. Davison peered down to the screaming girl, spit and snuff out his twisted lips. With the crack of his bullwhip, the slaves scattered, pitting their tools back on their shoulders without a word wise. Everyone knew of the man's reputation. He was a mean, villainous creature, known for his taste of slave blood, especially at the end of his bullwhip, which he named Nigger. Tears in her eyes, scared for her life, Rachel looked up at the slave enforcer, knowing all too well what was due. That night, the bastard violently took the only possession young Edmund had in the world, leaving her tiny body bloody and soiled for all of the heavens to mourn over. But what nobody knew, that night changed Rachel Edmonds forever in more ways than one. Each time her flesh was ripped in two, savaged, something grew inside of her, something mean and dark, far more hateful than the man that was raping her 11-year-old body. Sure enough, a child began to grow in the young girl's womb. What should have been a burden of hatred, a reminder of the darkest kind. But Rachel had a plan, one that was so dastardly, so Machiavellian, it boggles the mind how a child had thought it up. 9 months later, sure enough, a young girl was born, with skin the color of white cream and eyes that were as blue as the morning sky she cried into. This young baby was going to be Rachel's revenge on them all, every last one. As the baby grew into a young girl named Serenity, her slave mother taught the child all that she could about working in the fields. That is, until the plantation owner took a liking to the mulatto child, sweeping the pretty young one up into a world her mother had never known, one of fine dresses and sweet tea, French and Latin lessons, wealth the young girl could barely imagine. The plantation owner even renamed the girl child, calling her Melanie, a name Serenity did not like, nor did she ever answer to it. What the whites did not know, nor have an inkling of an idea, was right under the roof of their grand plantation house with its vast estate, surrounded by 500 acres of pure legacy, was an enemy so vile and vicious, no one in the White's clan could never have imagined it. Serenity was to be her mother's savior, a harsh justice dealt with tiny, nimble hands, making all fair and equal in a world that seemed not to know right from wrong. As the years passed, the White's family wealth grew, as did their collection of lost souls that were often worked to death in the plantation fields. Suddenly, around Serenity's 16th birthday, It was as if the specter of death himself had taken refuge on their estate. The Weisses started dropping like flies, deader than coffin nails and cracked old wood. Master Wise, with all of his patriarchal, Bible-toting, self-righteous fervor, he was poisoned, though the doctor had no idea at the time, thinking it was a sudden heart attack. About 2 years later, Ms. Weiss, no better than her husband, a heartless woman who cared more for the silks that covered her body than her own sons, she dropped dead while in the bathtub. Another case of a sudden heart condition. Again, nobody was the wiser. Soon, Serenity grew up into a divinely beautiful woman, and she took up comfort with one of the wisest sons, one of her half-brothers nonetheless, giving him 3 fine boys that looked as if they had not a drop of black blood in them to spare. This is when the young woman crafted her mother's deepest revenge. By that time, Ms. Edmonds was added to the household staff, thankfully, and both mother and daughter were plotting hard and swift. Soon Serenity was sent out to the colored balls in Louisiana, a place where beautiful women of color could find white men to keep them warm with gold, property, and wealth. This was only one aspect of a plan that took nearly 15 years to take place. As cunning as a fox, but deadlier than a serpent, Serenity claimed a young French aristocrat, giving him three boys, each easily passing for white. After 20 years, the Weiss plantation was owned by none other than Serenity and her 6 sons, her aristocratic benefactor mysteriously having a heart attack while in Paris, a trip she had one of her sons take with his father. Yes. After the Civil War ravaged the South, the slaves set free unto their own mystic destiny. Serenity had the plantation and its vast lands auctioned off, block by block, acre by acre, her French benefactor's sons keeping the profits. This was done so she would always have access to the money then in bank accounts of her passing for white sons, none of it taken away because she was a woman of color. Rachel Edmonds' revenge was done, made complete, living long enough to see her own daughter, a child brutally bestowed upon her as a child herself, stand upon the ruins of a place that had brought her so much toil and misery. Now the Weiss plantation is a lovely bed and breakfast. Serenity, now Mrs. Torter, owns it, along with its legacy, as well as the estate's vast wealth in which she used for land investments as far as Suriname and Colombia. Instead of cotton and tobacco, along with blood and sweat, the plantation now thrives on rubber and sugar money coming from lands far and wide. Looking up with grins on their faces, Benjamin and Slick peer up to a warm smile belonging to one of the richest black women in the South, ironically shuffling around in a greasy apron and headscarf, as if not a penny in the world to rub together. Miss Edmonds, why'd you keep this here place? Hell, at least make it look better. Slick laughed, nudging his brother. You got more money than God. Sitting down, glad for it, the old woman smiled with an inward warm chuckle. Child, that money ain't mine, and I don't want it, you hear? That money belongs to my baby girl. Y'all gonna have to visit her when I finish with you. She got something to tell you. She's expecting you. I done already called her. Grinning, Slick moves in for a whisper, kissing the cook on her moist, sweaty cheek. Look here. Did you really kill all those folks in the plantation? He whispers. Laughing loudly, the old cook scoots around in her seat, her old eyes seeing into a past that still gives her nightmares to this day. A little magnolia elixir soothes all pains, baby boy, is all Miss Edmonds says. You leave that there alone. The past ain't good for nobody. When I stand before the good Lord, I'll explain myself good enough, and I'm sure we'll agree. Scooting over to the blue-eyed killer, Ms. Edmonds squeezes Slick's biceps playfully through his fine Italian suit, then reaching over to fondle a chuckling Benjamin. Y'all niggas brolic like brick houses. If I was judge, I'd give y'all something to talk about. She giggles. So what you got to say? Benjamin says, watching other patrons sit. Miss Edmonds playfully scowls at the Creole. Always down to business. You ain't been seeing me since you had good sense, and that was a long time ago, and now you don't even want to talk to me. Benjamin laughs. Nah, I want to enjoy my food when it get here. Now spit it out, old woman. Benjamin laughs. You know I love you some, sweet mama. Scooting up on the old wooden bench, Miss Edmonds tells the boys of her daughter's troubles, especially with land purchases in and around Alabama and Mississippi. Investing in southern land is a bustling business for those that have the cold, hard cash to do so. As the North goes through a new industrial revolution as Henry Ford pushes out nearly 1,000 Model Ts per day, many investors are rethinking their stock market options, and rightfully so, choosing to instead line their pockets with money from land. Since much of the Deep South is untouched in the 1920s, vast acreages of marshes, forests, and plains, it is an easy investment that makes sense. This was the mindset of Miss Edmonds' daughter. That is, until she started to get the oddest letters from the states of Alabama and Mississippi. Each notarized letter was from the county in which her purchased parcels belonged, stating that huge taxes were due, or the land would have been made into national parks, a practice that will receive much interest, reaching its peak in 1931. Who makes old land into damn parks? The old woman asks. Slick snickers. No, Miss Edmonds, not park with swings and shit. A park for reserving the nation's historic lands. It's a natural history thing. You see now. Miss Edmonds deadpans the blue-eyed hustler with a mocking smirk. Shut the hell up, Slick, she smarts. I know what they mean, and my question still stands. Who makes a damn park out of a damn swampland? My daughter was going landlog that parson for another bed and breakfast, but it ain't worth the damn cost. Costs too much. So she sold it to a color couple who got money up north. So what's the problem? Benjamin asks. Miss Edmonds scoots back in her chair, eyeing more customers walk in, each expecting a good hearty breakfast. You's gonna have to ask her, boy. From what she told me, it all smells fishy. And she also said her landman, come here. She also said her landman, that fella, he says, this is what she told him, this is what he told her, that how much she got for that land, something is fishy on it. And he not telling her everything, but what she do know, there was some rocks with symbols on them, and she knows something fishy about that too. Hearing the news, Slick looks over to his brother. Both were sure the intimates of their investigations were under wraps, telling no one about but Judge Kelly, his wife, and Sally. How you know about that? The hunky Cajun grinned. You damn sharp as new tacks, Miss Edmonds. Smiling, the cook pinches Slick's left cheek, making the ruffian grin like a 10-year-old. 'Cause it's my business, young'un. I know what y'all trying to do. I appreciate it for it, too. God gonna bless you. Growing close, the wise cook tells the men about native tribes that once thrived in what is now the Deep South, how their land was taken from them, or European illnesses making the tribes so weak they nearly died off. She also tells the boys of a few legends, tales about spiritual lands rich in power and mysticism, as well as gold, natural gas, and in some cases black crude. Benjamin smiles, glad to hear a little bit more of the puzzle fit together. How you know this, Miss Edmonds? I want a straight answer, he laughed. Sitting back, folding her arms gently, Miss Edmonds thinks back to tales told by her own elders, stories meant to keep souls strong and intact as slave masters tried their best to destroy. Tales about slaves escaping from bondage, helped by brave coloreds with superhuman will, strength, and power like Harriet Tubman. The wise woman also relates that sometimes along the treacherous journey to freedom, natives would often help out, knowing that the hapless black escaped slaves meant them no harm. Sometimes, though it did not happen often, some colored men and women stayed behind, becoming part of that tribe, siring children that were strong in spirit and in body. Miss Edmonds looks to the men with sweet, kind eyes. How you think the both of y'all came to be? Then all that fine, straight black hair in your head, boy, all that ain't white blood. And you, Slick, I don't care how much the good sun decides to leave his mark on you, making your hair as yellow as his rays. You got that red man's blood in you, too. I can see it. Hell, I can feel it. That is the Moxy of Ms Edmonds. I hope that you enjoyed this little audio rendition of it. Keep in mind that this is a preview from the River Volume 2, Blood Brother Chronicles Volume 2, coming out in October 2016. Again, everyone, thank you so very much for your support. This has been a labor of wonderful love, and I am so honored to be chosen for this wonderful literary voyage. And it's wonderful to share this with you guys. I'm going to do a few more of these tonight, so do expect, to hear about the boys and to. I hope that this has all of you to feel that energy, at least a little bit of what I feel, and then also too, I hope all of you can feel Aunt Jet's love as she set me down on that porch those summers so long ago and told me and relayed these wonderful tales to me. And I hope a little bit of her is coming through my voice, and I hope you guys feel it. Anyway, all of you have a wonderful night, a wonderful day, wherever you are. And be looking out for a few more of these, because I love doing them, because y'all know I love to talk. So, y'all be blessed, and I'm going to talk to y'all soon. Thank you again. Bye-bye.